Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Legend of the Cybermen, written by McEdam. I for some reason have misplaced the actual cover of the actual CD box, but I still have the booklet here. This is actually an end of a trilogy of stories, which sadly I don't own the previous stories in this trilogy, in which the Sixth Doctor gets reunited with an elderly Jamie McEdam, a companion of the Second Doctor era. And here he travels along with him, who doesn't have his memories right after getting them wiped by the Time Lords at the end of the War Games. And this story also sees the return of the Land of Fiction that last appeared in The Mind Robber. This would be the first time that the Land of Fiction would appear in Big Finish audio dramas. However, it won't be the last, as it appeared in a few other occasions, most notably in the Fourth Doctor story, The Crooked Man. There was a lot to talk about in this one. It was one of my first stories that I listened to of the Sixth Doctor's audio dramas. So this is a very important one to me. And I might even go as far as to say it was one of the first ones I really enjoyed. It's got something about its atmosphere I just really gravitated towards. But yeah, anyway. So, like always, this is the official Big Finish CD cover, which as it's out of the cover, I can show you that on the back they usually put a different spine. Actually, you can compare it like that, see? With the original type fonts and the original logo of the Sixth Doctor era. And before I continue as well, I just want to show you the inside of the booklet, which is this really gorgeous piece of artwork. And I want to state that because I actually used that for the DVD cover. Now I put the front and the side of it together because somebody had already designed one on DeviantArt. However, I wasn't too keen on it. They had the spine on the spine thing on the side of it, so I wasn't too pleased. So I used the image on the inside as well. And though this was one of my really early ones, so Zoe's face is kind of like leaning on the side like that, but I do really like the front of the Cybermen marching in. As you can see, it is the Invasion, Revenge of the Cybermen designs. Sorry, I don't know why the voice, or at least like the Trooper Cybermen, because they worship like the Cyber Planner. The voices sound to me more like the first Cybermen that appeared in the 10th Planet and Spare Parts. So anyway, that's the spine if anyone's interested. The text on the title of the story is a bit too big, but it does the job. It does the job very well. And this is a spine, which I've actually taken from somebody else's work on DeviantArt, so I can't take credit for that really. There you go. So as this continues, part of a trilogy featuring Jamie, the story already sets out with Jamie already in the TARDIS. It's here, something has happened at the end of the previous story, which I can't remember the name of. I do apologise, I can't remember any of those stories. They basically have landed into the void. A blank white space that borders the line of reality and the land of fiction, where all fictional entities provide. And the Doctor's theorising that they have a new master, a master of the land of fiction, and whoever he is might be more powerful and much more evil compared to his predecessor, to which the Second Doctor fought in The Mind Robber. And so they go out into the land of fiction, into the void, sorry, where they meet up with white robots, the toy redcoats, and also the Doctor gets to meet the Artful Dodger from Oliver Twist. This is a great way of setting up the story. Unlike the Mind Robber, this scene in the void doesn't take a whole lot of space. In fact, it's only like the first 10 minutes of the first episode. This is a 4-part long adventure spread across 2 discs, if anyone's interested. And the Doctor gets separated with Jamie for a little bit. This story has a massive scope. I can't really put my finger on it. It's high in scope and in concept, but it's not cinematic in a way. It's not movie quality. The only way I can really describe it is that it's got Big Finish's quirk for weird abstract storytelling, which works really well for both it being a Big Finish audio drama and a sequel to The Mind Robber. When the Doctor and Jamie get separated, the Doctor gets to meet up with the Artful Dodger from Oliver Twist. However, something seems a bit off. He's using terminology which bars more on science fiction than Oliver Twist. He mentions ray guns, lasers, high technology and stuff. And the Doctor also points out that he looks a little bit older than what he imagined the Artful Dodger to be. And also as well, he doesn't remember the Artful Dodger ever carrying a laser pistol before. And the story basically builds up upon the mystery. The Artful Dodger basically explains there is no master anymore, there is a mistress of the land of fiction. And the Doctor's like, ooh, this is intriguing. And the Artful Dodger explains that there's been a war, and the white robots don't work for the rulers anymore. They work for a rival entity that's trying to break through the land of fiction. However, all of the fictional characters have now become sentient. They've become emotional, free-willed beings. They have got their free will. And so they were able to expand and learn outside of their basic function in their original storylines. This means that characters now in the land of fiction can actually develop as characters. As much as you like the Mind Robber, the main focus is on the main 3 casts. And every other character that gets introduced is more of a plot element than an actual character within the story. But here, with this new deviation from the original text, this allows us to actually get into the stories of characters. We learn a bit about their history. I really like the world building in this story. We get to learn about this culture, their society, and we get to meet some lovely, fun characters. One of my favourite lines in this bit is the Artful Dodger is telling the Doctor that some people don't like to be reminded that they're fictional characters. Some people might get offended. And then later on in the dialogue, the Doctor goes, "What the dickens? Hey!" That's Artful Dodger's like, "That's really rude. I'm standing right here." So they basically act like pointing out that people here are fictional in a way. Is kind of like an offensive word, as if like he's swearing. Not that they don't believe. They all know that they're fictional creatures and that the real world is a separate entity from them. It's just that they don't really like to be reminded of that fact. They are aware of it, they know of it, but they're not too keen on the idea, which comes out with lots of the great comedy in this story. This story is hilarious. Now with Jamie, he gets to meet up with a lassie with a cheeky smile as the doctor gets, as Jamie bumps into Zoe Harriet from The Wheel in Space all the way up to the War Games, the final second Doctor companion. And she explains that she just one day, after a month leaving the Doctor, she woke up in the land of fiction and had her memories back. There was this device which Jamie believes is an apple, and she puts it to Jamie's head, which brings back memories of his travels with the Doctor. So now he remembers everything. Zoe here, she's not really that interesting for the moment. We'll get onto it until the very end. Here, Zoe kind of seems like an afterthought. Like, she doesn't have any real big character moments. She just kind of appears. It's nice to see her. I mean, Wendy Panburn. Is it Panburn? I can't remember. I don't know how to read the name. She does a fantastic job, and it's really lovely hearing Zoe bounce off Jamie again, and with Colin Baker this time. But really, she just seems like, in terms of the plot, that she's just really there to high the stakes when we need somebody in danger, so that the audience has a much more emotional connection. And later on then, they all meet up and they find Camelot, the castle of Camelot, King Arthur's castle, and so they go up to it, and the Doctor explains basically how he's got a different face and all that. Now the interesting thing to note here is that he explains that right after the trial of the Doctor in the War Games, did he land in London on Earth in his third incarnation. So it ignores season 6B, just to let people know. Unless, I believe, actually, season 6B stated that they wiped the Doctor's memories of him working for the Time Lords. I could be wrong, but it's very... It's just a small little fact. It's literally just like a nanosecond of information. And I really like Jamie in this story. I especially like the scene in which he's talking to the Doctor. They're walking basically around on nothing, and Jamie says, "Doctor, if we're walking on nothing, how are our feet making noises?" The Doctor's like, "You asked the most absurd questions." So they go to Camelot, where, they start off heading to Camelot, but they get interrupted by Alice from Alice in Wonderland, who is riding on a unicorn. She also appears slightly older than she originally is depicted, and also she seems to be wearing some kind of mechanical body armour. And so the Doctor, Jamie and Zoe fly up to Camelot's castle, where they see that the table, the circle round table, has been augmented with technology, with a flat screen showing a war. And it's around here, I don't think that was when they find out, but it's around this time do they discover that the Cybermen are involved in this story. Now let's talk about the Cybermen. If you're a huge fan of the Cybermen, like I am, they're one of my favourite monsters, and you go into this story hoping for a fantastically executed Cyberman story, you might be a little bit disappointed. Yes, there are some scenes which do take effect that the Cybermen convert people and transform things, especially now this is like a fictional character. However, the majority of scenes, they play out a lot like cliched, like Stormtrooper, and could really be replaced with any other monster. My fan theory, which is just a theory, it's my own fan theory, so I will not judge the story on this, but my fan theory is that these are actually fictional Cybermen. So they've always been in the land of fiction, and something has been poisoning them. But that's just my little thought. We later see that that the Artful Dodger finds Oliver Twist, who has been partially converted into a Cyberman, and the Cybermen then kill both Oliver and the Artful Dodger, as Oliver's conversion went wrong, and so he still contained a bit of himself. Actually, the cliffhanger for part 1 is the robotic Cyberman stating, "Please, can I have some more?" Which is kind of funny in a way. The story has a very strange atmosphere like that. Some might argue that it sounds a bit fanficky, but it's set in the story of the fictional universe within an actual fictional universe. So I think it can get away with this feeling of fan-made rich. We also come to one of my favourite parts of this story, where you see the commander, the one who's controlling the army, basically, of the fictional side, is led by Dracula, played by Ian Glender. Yes, that Ian Glender. Ian Glender is a very popular British actor who actually would appear in the actual show itself way later on in the 13th Doctor story, Can You Hear Me? So I believe this is his first appearance in any Doctor Who medium. He would also later go on to appear in the Torchwood series Children of Earth. So he has a big reputation, and I really like Dracula in the story. He's kind of playing him up a bit cliched, but I think that was the whole point. You know, he's supposed to be this cliched, like he speaks like this, and he talks about blood, kind of like thing. And you would really, if you didn't know if it was him, you couldn't tell. But he does a fantastic job here, and I really like that. The first time you hear Dracula, he basically knows that real people are coming to the castle, and he gets concerned because he's lived in a universe of fictional characters. We later learn that fictional characters have ink instead of blood. So he's been able to clearly control his thirst, but he worries that being in contact with real life people with actual blood, that he might bite into his animal instincts. And though that doesn't really play into this story, it is interesting to hear not just scenes without any real characters in a fictional universe, making it feel more like these characters have got free will. But the fact he shows concern really shows that you know he thinks about his actions. He's worried. He's prepared. He's got a personality. And what's really great is that when they do meet up, the Doctor is really hesitant to work with Dracula. And states, "Alice, can I ask what that thing is doing here?" Kind of branching out a bit of the TV incarnation of the Doctor, which doesn't really show a lot in this. This is a story mainly with Colin Baker being his most sweet but also demand himself as he is throughout the rest of the Big Finish, or the majority of Big Finish audio dramas. And the Doctor basically not only explains that Dracula is a villain in those books, but also his species and my species, referencing to the vampires and the Time Lords, are old enemies. And Jamie kind of can relate because he's a Scottish clansman fighting the English, and so he understands the Doctor in that way. But things soon start to come crashing down on their heads as Alice starts calling for the Valkyrie, creatures of Norse mythology, of the female warriors of Asgard, that brings the souls to Valhalla. However, there's a great bit when the Doctor's mentioning, he does the bum 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 da 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 da. When they see the Valkyries in the distance, they notice that they're different. They're augmented. Yes, the Cybermen have got the Valkyries under their power, and before they attack, the Doctor states that it's an incredible. They replaced their wings with jetpacks. That's a really funny imagery. So yeah, that really explains just like this world that they've created is just so strange and abstract. Before that, the Doctor, Jamie and Zoe gets taken to a resurrection pool. And actually one of the cliffhangers is they've got this pool of ink, and comes out of the ink is a man who states his name before the Doctor can interrupt and state that he is the artful dodger. Yes, he has been in a way resurrected. And it's later explained that like they can do this to characters who are completely dead, and that's how these fictional characters can continue for almost an eternity, that when they die they get resurrected back to their original state. However, the Cybermen have messed everything up, and that characters who get augmented into Cybermen don't get resurrected. Like Oliver Twist didn't get resurrected. It's also here that we learn that the Cybermen are here to try and take over the land of fiction, because you see the land of fiction is not only a universe of fiction, but it is also kind of like, I guess you could consider the soul of fiction itself. And so whoever controls the land of fiction can have access to human imagination and creativity. And the Cybermen want to basically take over so that everybody's imagination and creativity is in line with Cybermen, completely overhauling the universe with Cybermen, basically making everyone a Cyberman. Now, what's really interesting about the idea that the Cybermen want basically Everworlds to basically make themselves into Cybermen, parallel evolution, is that this would actually tie in a way to the TV series very loosely, in that in the 12th Doctor story, World Enough in Time, and the Doctor Falls, the Doctor states that there is such thing as a Cyberman parallel evolution, in which different planets from throughout the universe have had each simultaneously made Cybermen without the foreknowledge of any other. So like a massive coincidence. And maybe you could argue that this could be an explanation on how that happened. If the Cybermen, even the fact that they're in this place and that they had a huge impact on its culture and its places, then surely they must have affected the imaginations of the real world individuals in some way, shape or form. So that's really just a cool, fun idea. It has nothing really to bear on the story, but I'm rambling, so there you go. After the castle gets invaded and destroyed, the Doctor and Jamie get separated from Zoe, who travels with Dracula and tries to get to the mistress of fiction. And Jamie, the Doctor and Alice do the same in their own different route because they're separated. And we probably get one of the best scenes. Episode 3, surprisingly, is easily the best. Usually, in my opinion, it's usually number 4 because that's when everything... Either episode 1 or 4 are usually my favourites because otherwise the setup is really good or the execution, the ending of it is really good. But here I find episode 3 to be a standout for a great scene in which Jamie starts questioning things, and he states that, like, did you notice that, like, everything that we've been through, everything that we've done is strange. It's everything that we've been doing, chasing monsters, fighting bad guys. I mean, you're an alien who travels in the TARDIS. It's all very weird. And etc, etc. I don't know how he really comes up to the conclusion, but the Sixth Doctor basically sees where he's coming at and wonders that this isn't the second time they're in the land of fiction. This is actually the first time they've never left the land of fiction. It's never ever, they've never actually gone. However, Alice quickly debunks this at first as she pricks the Doctor's finger and he bleeds red, proving that he's a living entity. But then Jamie still sounds down as he tells them that he was injured during the destruction of the castle, and he started bleeding. He started bleeding black ink. Jamie in this incarnation is a fictional entity. We also learn that this entire trilogy, starting with the Doctor being reunited with this older Jamie, the Jamie, if you go by the TARDIS wiki, since then they've been in the land of fiction the entire time. Somebody had been recreating Jamie's stories, his adventures. And we get a scene where they're on a boat and Jamie kind of gets mad at the Doctor as he questions him. He's like, why did you never go back for us? And the Doctor's like, I'm sorry, I can't, I don't know. And Jamie is like, back when I was younger, a few days after I met your first incarnation, in the War Games, it's explained that they remember their first adventure, but nothing more. They don't remember them going in the TARDIS and travelling in their adventures. Only the stories which set in their time zone. So Jamie remembers the Highlanders, but he doesn't remember any other story. But anyway, Jamie asks, like, in his memories, he was battling the English where he survived, but I believe he said he was tortured, and that some of his friends weren't so lucky and they died. And Jamie stated that at that time he really wanted a friend. He really needed somebody that he can rely on. And he stated, like, if the real Jamie had those same experiences, the Doctor had literally just abandoned them. Like, even after the Doctor got his TARDIS working, after his exile, he still never came back for Jamie or Zoe or Victoria or Ben or Polly. And so that's just a very shocking revelation. later on we get introduced to two other characters, Captain Nemo and I believe it was Long John Silver, and a few other characters that have actually appeared throughout the trilogy that have appeared in the previous stories. And we get to introduce these nice, likeable characters. And one of my favourite moments in this story, which is in part 3, the Cybermen have basically found a way to not take control in a way, but augmentate this universe in a way that they can start fictionalizing people again, making them much more easier to change their minds and convert them. And it's just a fantastic scene as the Doctor's like, remember who you are, never forget. And we get like a really cliched, like a magical transition sound. And then all of a sudden, Zoe is talking to us. She's like, hello there. Are you sitting comfortably? Now when you hear this noise, ring, that means turn the page. She states like this thing is called like startling, starliner, something like that, like a little creature. And she's like telling this like little story. It's like Jamie and Zoe were walking around. Oh, they had such a laugh. Jamie made all those funny little jokes, ha ha ha, and stuff like that. And then at one point, we don't hear the transition. And Zoe is like, come on, Starplin, change the page. What's that? You're afraid that the Cybermen are going to cut out your organs and replace them with, and shove cybernetic implants into you, and replacing your eye sockets. It's really gruesome. And we also get Alice basically believing that she's in Alice in Wonderland, and she's like, oh look, it's the White Rabbit. And the White Rabbit said, and then you hear the Doctor is like, stop it, you're in reality, knock yourselves out of it. And he's basically trying to convince everybody to get back to normal. Dracula at this point now, believing he's actually part of this fictional universe, tries to actually bite Alice at this point. But when he kicks out of it, he realizes that he feels completely ashamed of himself. But the best one by far is Jamie, as the sound effects suddenly go really blank in terms of like the audio mix, as if like you're hearing like a behind the scenes. You hear glass getting knocked, and you hear Nicholas Briggs playing himself, telling I believe Jamie or Fraser Hines to just say on the script, talk to the script, say the stuff that's on the script, just continue. So the story actually breaks the fourth wall, and the part of the story is actually them making Legend of the Cybermen. I love this like meta-fiction of it. It's something that you can never really pull off in the TV series. But later on, the Doctor knocks him out of it. In a really great moment, Doctor is in another booth, or should I say, Colin Baker's in another booth, and he's telling him to basically, he's like, "Wake up! Come on, get out of it!" And I really like the sudden transition from sound it with no audio mix, so it's like so it sounds like a behind the scenes featurette, to in the story where the audio is a lot more clear and being patched up. That scene is just phenomenal. I really love that bit. And so really then the majority of the story after that is really just a lot of action scenes. And then we get to the conclusion in which Zoe, the Doctor, and Jamie meet this mistress of fiction. So I'm going to state, spoiler warning, okay? This is a spoiler warning. If you're interested in this, do not continue with this video, okay? So it turns out that the mistress of fiction is Zoe, but not the one we've been travelling. That Zoe was a fictional entity created by the real Zoe, who has spent many years after the fact. So she went from the wheel. She's lived a longer life, and then she, after a war out with the Cybermen, she found herself in the land of fiction, remembering everything, and basically this story ensues. And so the Doctor, Zoe, and there's a really great moment. I really like the somber moment. Like the Doctor kind of feels glad that he's meeting up with a much more older, the real Zoe, shall we say. And he does kind of feel sad that, like in a way that like it's been so long. At the start, the Doctor, I don't think, really believes it. From the portrayal of Colin Baker, he starts off treating her like she's one of his villains, but slowly does he let her into his confidence, and then they speak about like a strategy to take down the Cybermen. And so the plan is that Zoe has basically done this thing where she's bringing the fictional characters freedom, their own life, their own sentience. Also, the Carcass returns as well, making him the only character out of the fictions that appear in both stories. So that's really cool. So Zoe plans to, basically what she's going to do is all the Cybermen that were converted from fictional characters, she is going to fictionalize them, and so she can have ultimate power over them, to which she can then just make them vanish, putting a majority hole in the Cybermen's forces and allowing the other fictional characters to easily just wipe out the rest of the Cybermen. The Doctor kind of theorizes that this Zoe tried to fictionalize the Doctor, but she later states that she tried, but she couldn't, because apparently his character, his personality was just so bombastic that the machines that create fictional characters believed that the Doctor was too abstract an idea, too unique to be a fictional entity, which is hilariously ironic. And she basically states that she's been novelizing her stories. Now here's another a great little element to the story which breaks the metafiction. The Doctor actually starts picking up books from her library, and he looks in the book covers. Doctor Who and the Web of Fear, Doctor Who and the Wheel in Space. So basically it's stating that Zoe is the created target novelizations. I'll leave that to you. One of them is actually the Crea of the McEdam, which is actually an unproduced story from season 6, which was supposed to see Jamie go back to his home, where they would have to fight the Great Intelligence, and was actually planned to be Fraser Hind's final story. So that's really cool. And the story ends with Alice taken over as the mistress of fiction, because now she has pure sentience. She can actually take over, and the Doctor returns the real Zoe home as the fictional Jamie, who's now sentient with his with one of his people that he met in the previous stories in the trilogy, go out fighting the Englishman in a really cool scene. And the story ends in a really sad moment as soon as they go back to real universe and its real laws and physics, the Zoe's memories start to deteriorate as the Time Lord lock on her memories gets resealed, and she forgets about the travels with the Doctor. And the story ends with the Doctor kissing Zoe's forehead, leaving her back on the wheel in space as the Doctor travels alone. And that's Legend of the Cybermen. This is a fantastic story. It's well written, well acted, and the main focal point in this audio drama is world building. If you're a huge lover of world building, I highly recommend this story. You feel like by the end of it, you do get a great grasp at the land of fiction and its characters and its inhabitants. It makes you see public domain characters in a completely different light as they've basically become real entities in a way in this story. You might be disappointed that Zoe doesn't get much to do in this story. Well, the real Zoe, when she is revealed at the end of part 4, does a lot. But the Zoe that we travel through most of this story gets very little to do, in my opinion, and she just kind of seems like a basic version of herself, which might be even the point because she's supposed to be this fictional character. But the Sixth Doctor and Jamie are written extremely well, and they get some sad moments, they get some happy moments. They basically go through the entire board of emotions. And the Cybermen, I think, are 50-50. In a way that I might even describe it as the Cybermen have worked perfectly, and they don't work as Cybermen in this story. If that makes any lick of sense. It doesn't feel like a Cybermen story, despite them having very Cybermen things to do, like converting people into converting characters. At one point, they actually convert the white whale from Moby Dick. So yeah, it's a very strange, bizarre story. Highly recommend it. I don't think you'll need to know that there are stories previously in the trilogy, but I don't feel like they're necessary. I jumped onto this story without listening to them two, and I followed the story fine. So maybe it's better if you listen to those two first. But if you're only really interested in this story, I say check it out. Go listen to it. And there you go. That's Legend of the Cybermen. So join me next time when the Doctor meets up with an old friend who he's going to offer to take her around the universe, whilst the Doctor gets up with a ploy involving Davros. So join me next time for the Curse of Davros. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.